So got a bit of a commute right now with traffic, so gonna change the format of the video. Hopefully it would be much better with the audio as opposed to some of these other videos I've uploaded in the last few weeks. Want to talk about so the background on this is I grew a sales setting, a sales appointment, and a closer team to 10 reps. We basically took the revenue of this educational company from $300,000 a month to $800,000 a month before I left, and then after I left the company, it grew and it scaled to $1 million a month with the exact same kind of structure in the same format. I just wasn't there personally, but I knew the basically the main guy there, and it's exactly the same playbook from 800 to 1 million, just bigger. So want to talk about the biggest mistakes when coaches and entrepreneurs of high growth companies do when they are trying to scale their sales appointments, right? Whether that's through paid ads, inbound setting through the DMs, or through an appointment setter who actually picks up the phone to make outbound phone calls. Okay, so the team that I worked with, they all make outbound phone calls, text, emails, but the primary way they get in touch with people is not sending messages from a Facebook page of the founder. These are people who identify themselves as, hey, this is Win calling from, whatever the company name is. So the biggest mistakes, the three that I see when people are trying to scale and really capitalize and get more revenue for their course or their company, the coaching or the service, but again, by scaling their teams, right? The sales team, the biggest problems, number one, is they don't know how to hire. And probably out of everything, let me tell you the three. Number one, they don't know how to hire. Number two is they don't know how to onboard and train their sales reps. Again, I'm talking both setters and closers, but 90% of my experience has been from hiring, training, and scaling, setting teams, okay? Sales development reps or appointment setters or growth specialists, if you will. So the biggest three mistakes are, one, they don't know how to hire, meaning they don't know how to find and what to look for to find great people. That's the first problem. Probably 80% of your problems when it comes to retaining and scaling your team is going to be in the hiring. Very close second is they don't know how to onboard and train people on sales, because they themselves have never had to take sales training, right? Most founders don't. And if you have a sales manager, or if you hired a sales manager, because of, number one, not knowing how to recruit and find people, you also don't know how to find a sales manager either, right? So that's the second issue. The third issue that I see, once they hired somebody and trained somebody properly, number three, probably 20% of the time, is they don't know how to continue to manage and motivate and kind of get this rock star person that you found to be motivated and stay in the role for long enough to either turn into a closer or just be there long enough, right? They churn away. So those are the three mistakes. It sounds obvious, right? But today I want to kind of talk about the three, break it down in each area. So how to hire, right? The biggest thing with hiring is not where to find the application. There's a tons of way to get candidates. The problem that I see with hiring is there's, again, founders and coaches, entrepreneurs, especially when it comes to sales, is they don't implement basically a test, like a mock interview during the recruiting process. That's mistake number one under that first umbrella, is gotta have a mock interview. I have another video talking about exactly how to do a mock interview. So that's one. Second is when it comes to hiring, they don't sell the role. Meaning, if it's a prospect, you talk about the results that your program gets. You talk about the vision, the type of clients you work with, kind of like, filtering out your ideal clients. And when it comes to hiring, for whatever reason, most founders and entrepreneurs don't do that with their salespeople. Where for me, when I'm hiring people, I'm basically selling the role, right, to the right candidate who are the A+ players. So you kind of have to take the same approach on selling to recruiting. And what that means is, typically in my hiring process, I will have the founder record a short video really selling the company, right? Here's who we are. Here's why I started the company. Here's the vision that I want to create in the world. Here's the business that I help and the transformations that I create, or this company hopes to create. And here's why you, as a person, as a sales rep, should be applying for this role, because you're going to be connected to a great team. You're going to be in charge of your own schedule. You're going to learn from the best salespeople there is in the industry. And as a result, right, of working here, you're going to transform so many lives through the programs and the work that we do. Okay, so that's the second thing under the umbrella of hiring. And number 3, in that order, number 3 is most companies don't have a closing process once someone accepts a position. And what I mean by that is, at the end, once you find somebody who's great, you kind of have to, like, again, just like with a sale, right? You would go through the contract with your client to make sure they understand what they're getting into. Most people don't have this contract review thing with the employee. So literally what I would do with an employee is I would actually go through the job descriptions with them at the end once they accepted the position, to get crystal clear on what they are committing to, both in terms of the outcomes of the role, like how many appointments you're getting, how you're going to get paid, and also the inputs of, like, what are you committed to doing every day, right? Dials, meetings you're going to attend, how you're expected to show up to meetings. And then also the vision of, like, okay, here's what you can expect for this role if you're really successful. You're going to be promoted, you're going to be exposed to a bunch of other opportunities, so that this candidate is excited about the future of the role, right? So that's kind of the 3 things under hiring. So we got that, assuming you're going to find somebody who's great. By the way, if you do the mock interview where you test somebody, you're going to realize that half of the people who sounds really great and you're so impressed with their resume or how they even carry themselves in a meeting, once you do that test, half of those people, you're going to realize they're actually not that great. Okay, again, I'm going to do a more in-depth video on how to do a mock interview. Maybe another traffic would win video here. So on to the second thing, right? When you found somebody great, how do you onboard them? The biggest thing with onboarding is 2 things. Number 1 is the order of what you train them on, right? And then the second thing is the frequency of training. So the order of things, most people want to, like, okay, let's train them on sales tools. Like, what software do we use? How do you log your calls in Salesforce or in Close.com, whatever that may be, right? Kind of the tactical things of how to be a person or a sales rep with a company. That's actually backward. The right, or the optimal flow that you want to follow is in this order. Number 1 is train them on the industry of your clients. What are their biggest problems? What are the goals? What are the challenges? Right? And what do they desire? And what are some of the common language that they use, terms that they use as the industry? So for example, I'm working with an entrepreneur in the painting business now. They have a great business that helps painting contractors scale their business, right? The term there that everybody should know as a rep is getting off the tools. And so for painters, getting off the tools is basically, how do I remove myself from the operation and being the bottleneck and work on the business, right? But you wouldn't know that unless you are a painter or you understand the industry. So first, the industry first. Second, once they understand the industries, is then you want to explain and train them on how your product or service or program helps the industry fix and solve the problems that they have, right? on the challenges that they have and achieve the goals, right? So customer testimonials, case studies, common issues, common problems that the industry has, and then how each piece of your program helps solve exactly those problems in details. Okay, so that's the first piece with onboarding and training. The second piece with that is how frequent your onboarding should be. So most companies have a week-long training program, right? You're lucky if you have a 30-day plan. Most training programs should last for at least 90 days. And the onboarding program should consist of training and then coaching, right? The difference between training and coaching is training is one time. You give them a 1 hour training on the industry or on sales tools or on objection handling. It's a one-time event. That's training. Coaching is ongoing, hands-on, like, hey, now that you've learned the concepts in training, you're going to put it into practice, and then we're going to coach you on exactly how you're executing on the skill and the script, and then we're going to continue to get better. So training is basically learning how to do it. Coaching is giving direct feedback on the field on how to get better. Most companies don't even have any of that remotely, right? They give you a document and say, good luck, right? So that's the first thing. You want to establish what training looks like, what everybody should know, and the knowledge that they should have. And then coaching is how do we hold your hand through the execution of those tasks. And then the second thing with that is frequency. So the first week, at least the first week, every day there should be a meeting where you or as a owner or your sales manager should meet with this new employee every day for at least 30 minutes to an hour to take them through the training, right? In the first week, ideally the first 2 weeks. Then it kind of gradually get less and less frequent. So first week or at least 2 weeks, between first and week, depending on how complicated your training, of course, daily. Then you graduate to 3 to 4 times a week, right? The following week or 2 weeks. Then you graduate to twice a week. Then you graduate to just once or twice a week, okay, with your training and your onboarding. After that, as you move on from onboarding and training to coaching, then you should have at least one meeting a week where it's a one-on-one. You talk about goals and achievement, personal challenges with this person, your team member. And you should have another training. It could be the same meeting at the same time slot or a separate meeting where you only talk about continuous improvement, right? This coaching cadence and continue to move on. So that's 2. I'm almost home now, so I better wrap this up. So how to hire, how to onboard and train. The last piece is how to retain people, right? The issue that I see with most organizations is once they hire a great rock star player, they want that rock star player to be in the role forever, right? The problem with that is most setters and sales development reps don't want to be a setter forever, right? Whereas if you have a closer or an account executive who is crushing it, you see people who stay at the same role for 2, 3, 4, 5, sometimes 10 years or forever as a closer. No setters ever want to do that unless there's a particular type of setters that are good, who are good, and also like to do what they do. This is not the purpose of this meeting or this video. Like I said, 80 to 90% of people who are in a setting role want to do something else eventually, right? And especially if they're a player, they're great. So most companies don't have this process to retain and continue to help people stay motivated, right? And how to quote unquote fix that. This one is probably the one that's most nuanced. I can't ever get that word pronunciation properly. Nuanced. But what you want to do with the retaining client is continue to drive the vision of the company beyond, hey, I want to get a bunch of money. The vision of the company is really important for retention for both your clients and your employees as well, right? So what are you trying to create in the world for your clients and for your employees? I was at another company a few years ago in the healthcare space. They were amazing at setting and continue to remind the employees of the vision of the company. And I can still remember it today, right? The vision for the company is to flip the healthcare pyramid, right? And in that process, help 1 billion people get back to normal naturally. Like till today, I can still repeat the vision, and that's when you know you have a great vision and retention tool. And it really is your DNA, right? So over the long term, to keep your reps motivated and continue with your company is really your vision, mission, and and culture. Okay, first thing. Second thing is you need a daily accountability flow where your reps are getting together on a huddle every day to share wins, challenges, and just inspire each other. Like the culture, the high performance culture of your company, especially when it comes to your sales team, is really important. Keeping great salespeople, again, with setters, right? The frame that I want to take to this is most account executives or closers are lone wolves, right? They hunt, right, alone, whereas setters work in pack, right? They need to be interacting with each other and learning from others, and talk back and forth and like really collaborate and learn. That's again most motivated first-time sellers. They're there because they want to learn. They want to like progress, acquire skills, and get to the next step, right? So that's the second point. First is the culture, vision, and mission. Again, at that previous company, at Breakthrough, I'm going to tell you the name of the company. At Breakthrough, there was a town hall every week, and on there, there's a slide that always talks about the goals and where we're trying to go, right? And then we have the daily huddle. The third thing is, if it's a remote-only role, what you really want to have is a quarterly or at least a bi-yearly, like every 6 months, in-person event, get together, that will inspire and continue to kind of maintain and create these connections between your team members. And we do epic stuff, right? That also help with team building as well. It's not possible with every company, but ideally you have that maybe once a year, right? And a way to kind of hack that, again at Breakthrough, and a lot of this stuff at Breakthrough, right? A way to hack that is we turn our quarterly events into a revenue generating activity, and then we tack on top of that a couple of days where the teams get together to do the team building stuff. So one, you generate revenue for the company, and two, you also get to build the team and continue to solidify the bond, right? And so that's how you retain people. And obviously the things that you also want to do is you actually should have a progression path for people to go from setter to closer, or to delivery or coaching or service or success. It has to be a real path, right? There's more to that, not just these things, but those are the big three. So that's how the biggest mistakes that people make with hiring and scaling their setting team. Hopefully it's helpful. Let me know if any questions. Drop them in the comments below, or send me a message. Cheers.